What's going on, guys, and welcome to my review of Blue Beetle. A film that I've been meaning to get to, I've been meaning to review for a while, and speaking of that, I apologize once again. I know you're tired of hearing this. I've said it for the umpteenth time. I apologize for being absent. This is probably makes the longest that I've been absent on here. Probably going on 3 weeks now. Just been a lot of stuff going on my end, just a lot of crazy stuff. But I'm here to talk about the newest DC installment, Blue Beetle. And before we get started, I want to thank my theater, Cinemark Theaters in Asheboro, for providing me with this shirt. Since I've been a loyal customer, I go up there just about every weekend. I pretty much call that my second home. They decided to give me this shirt for free, so hats off to them and thank y'all for giving me this shirt. And maybe one day I'll sponsor y'all if any of y'all are watching this, which I kind of doubt that. One quick side note before we get started. Like with Evil Dead Rise, Blue Beetle was supposed to be an HBO Max exclusive, or Max exclusive is what they call itself now. It was supposed to go direct to streaming, just direct to that streaming service. But because we have a studio who actually cares about the theatrical experience, they decided to release it in theaters after all. Thank you for giving a shit once again, Warner Brothers. Because the theater experience for any movie is always a good experience. If we take the theatrical experience away, Hollywood might as well be dead. Fact! Same as if you take physical media away, but that's another story. It doesn't matter how many streaming services there are out there, whether it exists or not. It doesn't matter what naysayers say. I don't care. Rant over. So Blue Beetle basically tells the story of this kid who comes across this scarab that basically chooses him and becomes a part of him and makes them this superhero and forms his body into a machine, basically, and tries to fight off this evil organization, this evil, corrupt organization that tries to steal the tech back, and gets his family involved. So Blue Beetle is basically the newest DC installment, and it's sort of a part of the rebranding that James Gunn and Peter Safran is planning, but not really. He's a newer character in the newer era, which the rebranding of the DC era, from my understanding, won't start until 2025, starting with Superman Legacy. That's what I heard. But Blue Beetle is still kind of a part of the Zack Snyder type, but it didn't really feel that way. It's one of those characters that's probably going to be mentioned or brought up or shown in the new DC era. Put it simply, Blue Beetle is more than like the transition phase. That's the best way I can describe it. But Blue Beetle did not feel like your normal DC film. It actually felt like a true rebranding of this IP. The film as a whole just felt fresh. It felt like, nothing that you've actually seen before. It felt new. Which brings me to the positives. This felt legit. It felt like an actual legit era of this character, of something that I do admit I've never heard of. I'm sure probably, unless you're a hardcore comic book reader, I'm sure most people have not really heard of this. I know I sure as hell haven't. Point being, this film did feel like a new beginning. Even though it's not really considered a part of the new DC verse, still, it felt very different. It felt very different from its predecessors. And to that, it was really refreshing. I really did enjoy, just the new perspective, because that's what I got from this. Just the entire tone just felt really, really refreshing, and I really did appreciate that. I kind of figured walking into this, looking at the trailers, even from the trailers, it looked kind of new. It looked kind of refreshing. So I was really refreshed to see this. Which I'm sad to say that this movie is apparently suffering the sins of its predecessors. How bad the DC has been run into the ground and how much people just don't care anymore because there's a rebranding of it. This actually feels a lot different though. It really needs to be recognized, but because of its predecessors, how bad they did and how much people just abandoned them, I just don't see it happening, and it's coming on, it's like, second or third week? It's not doing that well, and it's a shame, because it's actually worth it. It's actually a good DC film. I mean, it feels different. Like I said, it's like a transitional phase that just feels perfect for it, and it needs to be more recognized. For those of you who have not seen it, please go support it. It definitely needs more recognition than the past few DC films have gotten. Not to mention, the family dynamic that was in this was the icing on the cake. You know, just the whole family dynamic with the family and the Reyes family, and just how they handled that whole entire plot line of how important family is. They did it in such a way that it was really nice. They tried this in Fast and Furious more times than I could count. So much so that it kind of made it a joke. You know, it's just, with Vin Diesel say it's all about family. It's all about family. Yeah, it just became a joke in those. You know, because they just played it out so much. But with Blue Beetle, the whole family dynamic, it really made you feel for these characters. It really made you care for these characters and just how family should be. Even though not every family is like this, but this film marked the true nature of how families really should be and how they're supposed to care for each other and how they're supposed to be there for each other no matter what, through thick and thin. I really did appreciate that. It didn't feel like it went overboard. It didn't feel like it was overplayed like the Fast and Furious franchise tends to do. It felt legit, it felt fresh, and it felt really harmonizing. You got all these characters, especially on the Reyes family side, with the main character whose name I cannot pronounce, so I'm not going to try. I knew I will butcher it. The only thing I recognize him being in is Cobra Kai, which technically I've never really seen, so this actor is kind of a fresh face for me. But I know I've seen him in the advertisements for Cobra Kai, but his performance in Blue Beetle as Blue Beetle was pretty good. You know, like when he first discovers this scarab and whenever it becomes a part of him and it does all these crazy stuff that it showed in the trailer, flying him around. It's like, what the hell is going on? Oh shit, I just split a bus in half. His performance alone in all those scenes and just the entire movie alone, especially with the family dynamic and the very sensitive subject matters that this film brought out, he did a really good job. Hats off to him. And you get this granny, this grandma or nana, who's basically Grambo. You know, Rambo, Granny, Grambo. They basically decide to pull this character trait to where you really want to find out what the hell this character has been through to make her like this, especially by the third act. And it's just, they did things with this character to where, damn, the more that she showed and the more about this character that you see in this film, especially by the third act, you really want to see more. You really want to see, like, okay, damn, did this woman know Rambo in her days, or what the hell? It's just, I really got enjoyment out of that character, especially by the end of this film. I'm not going to spoil anything, but she does some things that she's Grambo. That's all you need to know. I really did enjoy that aspect of it. I really did enjoy that. And George Lopez, oh my gosh, it's where the comedy is really flawless. And that's something that I cannot say that much in movies nowadays. You know, for those of you who've been following me, comedy has just not really been that much of a friend to me. Comedy just falls flat most of the time. But in this movie, especially with the George Lopez character, he plays this kind of conspiracy theorist. You know, the Big Brother's watching, and we gotta be careful what we say, otherwise they're gonna lock us up and this and that. And it's just, he plays that type of character that you just love. And every time he was on screen, I got chuckles, and more than I could say, that happens like mostly with me. I actually laughed a lot more in this movie than most of the movies combined, especially that came out this year. George Lopez, he was awesome in this. I've got all 6 seasons of his early 2000s George Lopez show, which I watch like a lot. I haven't watched it in a while, but every time that dude shows up in this film, I chuckle. Like every time he was off screen, I was like, yeah, bring me more George Lopez. Let's see him more. You know, come on, people. He's just one of those actors that I really do respect. I wish I would see him in more stuff. He's not in that much. I think he's just mostly kind of low rate, which is kind of a shame. He's just not that much in, you know, stuff that I watch. But I wish he did show up more, because that dude's hilarious. And he did it justice for the type of character that he played in Blue Beetle. The action was pretty good, not to mention the CGI, which I do praise. So much better, so much higher than The Flash. The Flash was just crap. It was horrendous. And Blue Beetle, the CGI, they pretty much made up for that. It was pretty cool. It was pretty good. It was done right. And just the action sequences in tone, they were written really well. And it was fast-paced, but not too fast, not too slow. But it was just the right amount of pacing, especially with the way the action sequences had played out. It was really good. It does give you enough time to breathe, but the way the action sequences was, it was really good. It was very entertaining. It's what you go to a movie like this to see. It was really riveting. Just the overall tone of this film felt really fresh. As I said at the beginning of this review, this felt so much like it was already a part of the new DC verse. They're claiming it's not, but I don't care. I'm just going to say that it kind of is. It kind of is. I mean, the whole entire directional change in tone, it just... Sorry, that's just what I'm going to label this movie. Like, whenever they get to the new DC era, Blue Beetle is going right in my collection of the new DC era. Like I say, it's more of a transitional phase is what this movie is. So it's not actually considered a part of the new DC verse, but it'll be a character that'll, I'm sure, show up in future installments. The villain that fights Blue Beetle in that other Iron Man type suit, which that's another thing I'll get into here later in a minute, but he was pretty awesome. I thought he was a really cool villain. They gave him a pretty good backstory. They did something to him at the end that was pretty surprising. And without getting anything away, it just kind of made you empathize with this character, and it made you kind of on his side. As evil as he was, you kind of had to root for, because he just has that presence about him. Of course, he's another actor whose name I am not going to even try to pronounce, but he was pretty good. He was pretty cool. You know, just the villainous side of him fighting Blue Beetle and just the chemistry that they had as heroes and villains should be. They didn't really miss a beat at all with that. And I don't know how you guys see this, for those of you who have seen this film, but I thought there was plenty of nudges towards Ant-Man, like with the suit being a beetle. He doesn't shrink down or anything, but it was kind of like a nudge, you know, with the tech. And especially with Iron Man. You know, they also throw some Iron Man stuff out there, like with the tech actually talking to the guys while he's in it, just like Jarvis from Iron Man. And I thought that was pretty cool, so I really did enjoy those aspects of it. Again, I don't know if that's how y'all felt about it, but that's what I got out of it. I know that's not what they were hinting at, but it was a lot of similarities to that. And because of that, I appreciated it even more. As much as I enjoyed this film, and I did a lot, the only negative I have is Susan Sarandon. Now, this is not on her, but I just didn't feel like she was that good of a main villain. You know, the guy in the Iron Man suit that Blue Beetle fought throughout this whole entire film would have made more sense, would have been more plausible as the main villain. He was more of like a sidekick. He was working with Susan Sarandon, who's actually the main villain of this film. Susan Sarandon, I've never really had a problem with her. Of course, I don't see her much, but when I did see her in the past, I never had a problem with her. I think she's a really good actor. What I'm saying here is not a reflection on her. She's really good. But it's just the type of character that they chose to, you know, have her play. I just felt like they could have gone with somebody else. Somebody more menacing. And this, she was weak. I didn't get that much intimidation out of her, as much as annoyance. She came off more of like a jerk than anything else. She was more of like that high school jerk that's like, bye, because I'm such a badass. I'm so perfect. I'm so better than anybody else. That's more of the character trait I've got from her. And because she was considered the main villain, that just didn't really work. That didn't work at all. I thought she was the weakest element of this. Now again, nothing against Susan Sarandon. Great actress, but what she was given, she could have played something else. I thought that the villain that Blue Beetle was fighting in that Iron Man suit was way better. You know, he should have been considered the main villain, like, throughout this whole entire film instead of Susan Sarandon. The film was such a joy. It was such a refreshing tonal change that this movie deserves to be on a pedestal. So Blue Beetle, what was your thoughts on it? Have you seen it yet? You're bound to have. It's been out for weeks now. Again, I apologize for that. What was your thoughts on it? Were you a fan? Have you ever heard of this character before? Were you a fan of this film in general? What do you think this film is? Like, do you think it's a part of the new DC verse, or did you agree with me? Is this like more of a transitional phase, like more in the middle in the transitional phase? And what was your thoughts of the film at all? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. And make sure to click that bell icon and set it to all so you don't miss a thing. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.